In part 2, the flood. The windows of heaven were opened. In Genesis 7:17, now the flood was on the earth 40 days. The waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. Genesis 7:18, the waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. In Genesis 7:19, and the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the high hills under the whole heaven were covered. In Genesis 7:24, and the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. In Genesis 8:1, and God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. Genesis 8:2, the fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. In Genesis 8:3, and the waters receded continually from the earth. At the end of the 150 days, the waters decreased. Before continuing, we will hear a special message from the Holy Spirit. Religion is big on telling you to read the Bible, but have you actually read the Scriptures? In Luke 24:45, and he opened their understanding that they might comprehend the Scriptures. The he refers to Jesus opening their understanding. After the Father sent the Holy Spirit, it was the Holy Spirit who opened their understanding. So seeking and being filled with the Holy Spirit is a must to see the Father for who He is. Let's back up and begin reading the Scriptures again for the first time. In Genesis 1:2, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. At that time, the entire earth was completely covered in water. In Genesis 1:6, then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and divide the waters from the waters. By definition, a firmament is a noun, an expanse of sky or the heavens. So reading Genesis 1:6 again, God put an expanse of sky in the middle of the waters. In Genesis 1:7, thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. In Genesis 7:11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month and 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. The windows of heaven that were opened are the windows that held back the waters from above the firmament. This is where the waters came from to cover the entire earth. Genesis 1:8, and God called the firmament heaven. Genesis 1:9, then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. In Genesis 1:10, and God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. In Genesis 8:5, and the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. In Genesis 8:13, and it came to pass in the 601st year, in the 1st month and the 1st day of the month, that the waters were dried up from the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and indeed the surface of the ground was dry. Genesis 8:20, then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took of every clean animal and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. In Genesis 8:21, and the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, although the imagination of man's hearts is evil from his youth. Nor will I destroy every living thing as I have done. Genesis 9:13. I set my rainbow in the clouds, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. So once again, I'm going to end this here, as the attention span of a YouTuber is about 3 minutes. You claim to be filled with the Holy Spirit and that you want to spend eternity in heaven. Examine yourselves. If you can't give God more than 3 minutes in this life, how much time do you think He should give you in the next life? The Antichrist of religion has you believing everything will be okay. God is a loving God. Well, your loving God just destroyed every breathing thing on earth.